Greetings, boys and girls. In today's video, we are going to be adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Since this is a 5th grade skill, all of our denominators are not going to necessarily be the same, but some of them will be. So in our first problem, we are really blessed to have denominators that are equivalent. So I am going to be adding 2 1/10 plus 5 7/10. My denominators are the same, so I'm not going to have to change anything. And I can first add my fractions. 1/10 plus 7/10 is going to be 8/10. After that, I can add my 2 wholes. 2 wholes plus 5 wholes would be 7 wholes. So my answer is going to be these two together, 7 8/10. Well, seeing that 8 and 10 are both even numbers, I know I can divide those by 2 over 2, and then that would become 4/5. So my final answer will be 7 4/5. That is in simplest form. Okay, let's look at another problem. Again, my denominators are the same. 9 3/4 plus 8 3/4. I can add my fractional pieces together first. 3/4 plus 3/4 would equal 6/4. I know that I can take a whole out of that. Okay, I can even simplify it as well. I can do that now or I can do that later. Why don't we do that now? It's an improper fraction right now. So if I divided 6 divided by 4, I would get 1 whole and 2/4. Now a lot of us recognize that 2/4 can be simplified as 1/2. So this is the same thing as 1 1/2. Now I can add my wholes to that. 9 plus 8. 9 plus 8 would be 17 wholes, but I'm going to add to it my 1 1/2, so I now have 18 wholes and 1/2, or 18 1/2. Okay? So even though I did have the same denominator, that kind of took out one step, I still had to do a few extra steps with the regrouping. Okay. Let's look at this next one. I have 3 5/8 plus 6 1/2. I can already tell you that 5/8 is larger than 1/2. So I know it's like saying I have 3 and a little over a half plus 6 1/2. I'd imagine I'm going to get 9 wholes at least, plus I'm going to have more than 1/2 plus 1/2, so that's going to be another whole. My answer is going to be around 10 wholes. All right, so let's start with our fractions. But I have 8s and halves, so my fractions aren't the same. So I'm going to leave my 8s the same, but my half, I'm going to multiply it by 4 over 4, so that it can have the same denominator as an 8. 2 times 4 is 8. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, now I have 5/8 plus 4/8. I can now combine these. That equals 9/8. Oh, that's greater than 1 whole. Okay, so I can take a whole out, and then I'd have 1/8 left. 1 1/8. After that, I'll add my whole numbers. 3 wholes plus 6 wholes equals 9 wholes. And then I'm going to add that, the 1 1/8 to my 9 wholes. So now I have 9 plus 1, which equals 10, 1/8. That is my final answer. Boys and girls, it's simplified because I have a numerator of 1 with the 1/8, so I know that was already simplified. Okay, let's look at another problem. Okay, this time I'm subtracting. Thankfully, my denominators are the same. So I'm going to take my fraction pieces and I'm going to subtract those first. 5/8 minus 3/8. When I subtract, I get 2/8. I can simplify now or later. I'll go ahead and do it now since I'm thinking about it. I know I can simplify this because both 2 and 8 are even numbers. So I can divide both of them by 2 over 2. By 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. All right, so my fractional piece is going to be 1/4. Now I'm going to take the 6 wholes and I'm going to subtract 2 wholes. When I do that, I get 4 wholes. After this, I get to just add my 1/4 onto my 4 wholes so that my final answer is 4 and 1/4. Ooh, it looks like I'm a Laker fan. All right, let's look at another subtraction problem. And remember, if I'm ever going too fast, press pause on the video. Okay, this time I have 9 3/4 minus 1 1/3. And immediately I notice that my denominators are not the same. So I need to get both of them to a common denominator, 4 and 3. Well, I know that when I think about my 4s, I have the multiples 8, 4, 12. When I think about my 3s, I have 3, 6, 9, and 12. So 12 is going to be the least common multiple. So I want both of the 3/4 and the 1/3 to have a denominator of 12. All right, so 3/4 times, I'm thinking of what is going to get me to this denominator of 12. Oh, if I multiply by 3. So if I multiply the denominator by 3, I have to multiply my numerator by 3. 3 times 3 would be 9. And then 1/3. I'm also thinking about what can I multiply it by to get to a denominator of 12. 3 times 4. So if I multiply the denominator by 4, I have to multiply my numerator by 4. 1 times 4 would be 4. Okay, I'm now ready to subtract. 9/12 minus 4/12 would equal 5/12. Okay, this is a good sign. I have a prime number as my numerator, so I know that this one is simplified. Because 5 is not is not a factor of 12 as well. Now I can subtract my wholes. 9 wholes minus 1 whole would be 8 wholes. And I'll just add this 5/12 to the answer. So I get 8 and 5/12 as my final answer. Eight and 5/12. All right. We're almost done. Let's look at this problem. 4 and 5/6 minus 4 and 1/3. Ooh, I'm subtracting 4 and 5/6, which is probably about 5, minus 4 and 1/3, which is very near 4. So I'm imagining my answer is going to be somewhere close to a whole. It's going to actually be a little less than a whole because 5/6 is less, 4 and 5/6 is less than 5 wholes. Okay, so I did some fancy rounding. But Let's go ahead and solve it. 6 and a 3. All right. I know 3 times 2 is going to give me 6, so I'm going to get both of them to have a denominator of 6. 1/3. To have a denominator of 6, I need to multiply by 2 over 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So now I can subtract. 5/6 minus 2/6 is going to equal 3/6. And I know that can be simplified by by dividing by 3 over 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that's 1/2. All right. And then we're just subtracting the wholes. 4 wholes minus 4 wholes equals 0. And look at that. It's 1/2. Now, I estimated that it was going to be around 1 whole, but it was actually half of that. All right, and that shows you that sometimes our estimates, they're not exact answers, so they may be off a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty cool how that worked out. And it might have helped too if I thought of 4 and 1/3 as closer to 4 and 1/2. Okay, that would have made my estimate closer. All right, last problem. We have 12 and 1/4 minus 5 and 2/3. I wanted to show this problem because sometimes when we do our subtraction, we're going to have to regroup, even with fractions. So look, I have a 4 and a 3, and I want them to have a common denominator. So I can get them to have denominators of 12. To get 1/4 to have a denominator of 12, I've multiplied it by 3 over 3, which would give me 3/12. To get 2/3 to have a denominator of 12, I would multiply it by 4 over 4. And that would give me 8/12. Okay, now when I get ready to subtract 3/12 minus 8/12, I have to stop because 3 minus 8, I don't have enough. So I'm going to come to this 12 wholes and I'm going to take 1 whole away. So I'll be left with 11. Now listen, when I'm talking about regular subtraction in our base 10 system, I always regroup with 10. So I'd take 1 away from this 12 and then I'd add 10 to my numerator. But this time, when I take 1 whole away, I'm going to add however many pieces are in a whole to my numerator. Okay? There's 12 pieces in my numerator. So when I took 1 whole away from 12 wholes, I'm going to add those 12 to my 3. And now I'll have 15/12 minus 8/12. Okay? 15 minus 8 is 7. 7/12 is my answer there. Okay? That's how much I have. Then I'm going to take my 11 wholes. Remember, it changed from 12 to 11. And I'm going to subtract 5 wholes, and I get 6 wholes. So my answer would be 6 and 7/12. So that is how we subtract when we need to regroup, okay, with our fractions. I hope that made sense. There are some more practice problems if you want to continue practicing. Well, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until we meet again, have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye.